Why do bad things happen to good people? So mind-boggling, right? I feel like I've gone through most of my life asking myself this question. And I feel like I've gotten to a point now where I have an answer that I feel comfortable with. And to kind of explain it, I want to walk you through a little bit of my own journey and just some examples to point to from people whom I know, people whom I've worked with, and their identities will be kept anonymous. But I really want to speak to some of the more horrific and traumatic and unjustifiably horrendous things that really good people experience, which is heartbreaking, and it's senseless, and it makes it's so unfathomably scary and confronting to have to deal with something like that. And yet it happens to people with some of the biggest hearts in the world. So why is it? Why does that happen? To share a little bit more about my story, when I was going through university, and I guess I was really struggling to process my parents' divorce at the end of year 12, which really rocked me and really, I guess it hurt. It hurt and sucked a lot more, I think, because I'm an only child, and I felt like I didn't really have anyone to turn to. My parents kind of turned against each other. I went off to uni to live on campus, and it was a really isolating time. I struggled a lot with anxiety and depression. I turned to substances to cope, and then not long after that, when I came over for a seemingly innocuous conversation with my dad, I found out that he had tried to end his own life. And it was like really incredibly overwhelming and confronting. And at the time, I think I was just like numbed myself out so much. I didn't really feel anything because of everything that I was taking. But I feel like, like I mentioned before, it was just senseless. Like, it didn't make any sense to me as to why this had happened. I feel like I hadn't done anything wrong. I probably wasn't as emotionally, I definitely wasn't as emotionally mature as I am now, but I felt like I was a good person. Didn't feel like I'd done anything wrong at that point in time. And yet it still happened. So why did this happen? And in hindsight, I can look back and see how these really traumatic circumstances really forced me to tap into deeper levels of courage and resilience, to rise above the circumstances, to become even more adept at emotional regulation and being able to check in with myself and notice when something's off and be able to look after myself or seek support, as opposed to letting things fester and bottle up. Made me feel, it helped me tap into greater levels of love, compassion, kindness for myself and for others. It in many ways inspired the work that I've been doing, building companies in the mental health space, in the coaching and transformation space. And it's because of this really scary, hairy, confronting series of circumstances and events that I was able to alchemize the pain and the suffering into a form of purpose and strength and learning to be able to share with other people. So these things are actually, they were gifts in many ways. They were gifts. At the time, though, it doesn't feel like it. At the time, it's scary and it's really right? And I don't want to just speak about myself, because I know that there are so many awful things that people go through. I know people, and I've worked with people who have been raped, who have experienced domestic violence, who have been physically abused, who have been sexually abused, who are homeless, who have undergone seriously life-altering, completely overwhelming and devastating circumstances and events, and it's heartbreaking. And these are some of the kindest, most wonderful, inspiring, beautiful people I've ever had the privilege of knowing. Why do they go through these things? Why do bad things happen to good people? And having spent a lot of time with them and talked with them and listened to them, I've witnessed how patient they are, how understanding they are, how compassionate, how loving they are, how peaceful they are, how radiant they are, because of how much darkness that they've really faced and alchemized and transformed into beauty and love. And it's scary. I mean, I don't wish these things upon anyone. What I've seen, though, is that these things become the greatest launch pad for an individual's growth, evolution, expansion, and expression. And so I really, truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that bad things happen to good people because they are already doing so much good. They're vibrating at such a high frequency. They are such decent human beings that they experience these challenges because they have the strength, the wherewithal, the courage, the goodness inside of them to deal with these circumstances, to rise above them. And instead of letting these circumstances harden them, instead of making these circumstances or letting these circumstances turn them cynical, they transform them into greater levels of love and compassion and kindness and strength and beauty for, the whole world to benefit from. So that's my spiel for tonight. I'm joining you from my car park at home. And that's why I believe bad things happen to good people. What's your take, right? This is just an Australian fella's opinion. It's not necessarily fact or true. This is just what I believe. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What stood out for you? And if you've been through something that's been really challenging or traumatic, let me know how did it serve you, and in what way were you able to learn from it and grow from it? If you know someone who's going through a really challenging time, who's experiencing a bad thing, share it with them. This may be the video that they would benefit from. And as always, please like, subscribe, hit the bell button so you get notifications. I'm uploading a video every day. This is me now. There goes the light. This is me now. I want to have these conversations with you more often because I understand how lonely and isolating and challenging life can be, and how lonely and isolating and challenging building a business and a venture and an initiative and a project and an art can be, right? You may often feel misunderstood, and you may feel like there's no one else who gets you or understands what you're going through. I get it, I appreciate the feelings of fear and isolation that can come up. So I hope this video has been helpful for you, and I wish you a really beautiful day or night ahead. Lots of love.